Hello everybody, welcome to Fruitful Trees. We are back here. There's Alex and we're back at Tropical Acres Farms, part 2, talking about Thai mangoes. And it looks like it's going to rain here today, so we're going to try to get all these in before it rains, but we have some umbrellas in case it does. But we're excited. If you didn't see part 1, I'll put the link below. And this is part 2. These are all of the Thai mango trees they have here. Now there are many others, but that's what they have here at Tropical Acres Farms, and Alex is going to show us around to all these different trees. If you want budwood or you want to actually order the trees, they have them on their website for most of them. Some of them they're keeping, and I'll explain that. And then the mangoes themselves you can get during mango season. So we're going to speak about some mangoes that are still having mangoes right now as opposed to this video. So check it out. Here goes the video, part 2 of Thai mangoes that grow in Florida. All right, here we're back for part 2 of the Thai mangoes, and this is Alex, Tropical Acres Farms. Links are below to part 1, and also budwood and mangoes when they're in season, and the trees you can get here from Tropical Acres Farm. So go ahead, Alex. What tree are we in front of now?
Okay, so we're continuing on the series about Thai mangoes from Thailand. And the one behind me here is a variety that doesn't get talked about very much and isn't very well known. It's called Gao Lim Krong. It might be spelled with a K, but ours was spelled with a G, so that's how we spelled it. Anyway, this variety we couldn't find much information about on the internet, unfortunately, but it was sent to us from Hawaii, from a nursery there, as a grafted tree, and we were told it was a slow-growing, like, dwarfish tree, and it has been kind of a dwarfish tree. Even though it has kind of long internodes between the leaves, which you wouldn't expect from a dwarfish variety, it has grown so slowly that it has stayed, you know, relatively small compared to the trees around it, which were planted at the same time. So this tree at this point is more than 10 years old, I suppose, or around 10 years old, and not very big. We've never had to prune it. I've taken budwood off of it plenty of times, but I've never had to do a hard prune to this tree. I noticed there was one mango left underneath it. Here it is right here. So when this started fruiting for us for the first time, I thought this mango might be the same mango as ivory, because it has kind of a little bit of a vertical growth habit, kind of similar looking leaves. But we were able to determine from the flavor of the fruit that it's not the same thing as ivory. It's definitely a distinct variety. Obviously, it's grown a lot slower than ivory. So it wouldn't shock me if they were related, but they're definitely not the same mango. So as far as I can tell, this is probably a ripe eating Thai variety, although I haven't eaten too many of them green. But it is a good quality fruit. A little prone to post-harvest anthracnose, as you can see there. It has been an inconsistent producer for us, on the other hand. I would have liked to have seen more abundant crops year after year. I do get fruit from this every year, but this year was a pretty sparse crop. And I don't think last year was great either. The year before, I think it had a pretty good crop. So sometimes I just seem to forget that this tree is here. We don't get a ton of requests for it, but it is a very slow-growing tree, and perhaps something to consider for small yards or container growing, something like that, if you're looking for a Thai variety. We already talked about the Phalan as a possibility with that also, and there's a couple others we'll discuss. So this is one I'm guilty of forgetting about, I guess, but an interesting variety nonetheless. Gao Lim Krong or Cow Lim Krong, or I don't know how it'll be. Somebody hopefully can chime in that knows more about it than I do.
Does anyone ever ask for it?
Yes, I mean, we've grafted trees for people, so we get graft requests for this every year, based, I think, on the fact that it's kind of dwarf. And we definitely sell budwood from this too. I've sold a good bit of budwood off the tree over the last probably 4 years or so. So there's some people aware of it, but it's not a high number.
Okay, and the place you got it from Hawaii, any idea how they got it?
They imported, I don't know if they specifically did or somebody in Hawaii brought over a number of Thai varieties, and this was one of them, I think. And then there's another one that we'll talk about later that's called Kook Lom Krong. and I think that tree also came from there.
Well, that one's more popular because I think another
yes,
place
that one's been that one is definitely more well known than this one.
Okay.
And now that I'm thinking about it, it's possible this did not come from that nursery. It's possible this was actually obtained in South Florida from another nursery. I might be misremembering this, where we obtained this variety. I know Kook Lom Krong came from the Hawaii nursery, though. I'm 100%. This one might not have. This one might have come from a nursery in Southwest Florida. So I guess I got to be careful who I give credit to for where this tree came from, but how they got it, I don't know.
Okay.
So,
alrighty. Is that the dwarfest Thai variety, or is there some others that?
Well, the Phalan that we looked at in the last video is probably so far the dwarf, but we will look at a couple others that would probably also qualify as dwarfs. So.
Okay. So what's the season of the mango?
Gao Lim Krong is a mid-season mango from what I've seen. Sometimes I've seen the fruit hang into August. We just found that one on the ground. But I would define it as kind of like a standard mid-season mango.
Okay.
Okay, next to me here is one of our Pim Sen Mun mango trees. We actually have two Pim Sen Mun trees, but that wasn't by design. We ended up with a second one because the second one was a mislabeled tree, which you've probably heard me say a few times. But this is the one, or one of the ones that was planted originally as a Pim Sen Mun. I think what might have happened with this one is we planted a tree as a Pim Sen Mun, and we planted this as something else, and this turned out to be a Pim Sen Mun, from what I recall. So this was also a mislabeled tree, but the original, this grew better than the one that we planted as a Pim Sen Mun. So we got rid of that Pim Sen Mun and planted something else in its place, and this was the one that we ended up keeping. So, two mislabeled trees that turned out to be Pim Sen Mun. So at one point in time, we might have had three Pim Sen Mun trees here. Anyway, Pim Sen Mun is a variety that is generally eaten green in Thailand. It's fairly well propagated in Thailand and fairly well known. So like among mangoes that people that are actually from Thailand will recognize their names, this is one of the most recognizable names amongst the Thai varieties. And I can't remember what it means other than that the moon usually indicates that it's something that you can eat green, and for most people that eat this mango over there, it is eaten green. Now you can eat this mango ripe, okay? And it has a fairly recognizable Thai flavor. It has a little bit of fiber. It's not completely fiberless. There's some fiber in this compared to a Nam Doc Mai that has zero fiber. This has like a little bit more of a kidney shape to it, and it will turn like a yellow color when it's ripe and ready to drop, but a lot of times it is picked like fully green. So beyond that, when it is eaten green, this is not like the Cow Savoy where it's like real sweet when it's eaten green. This has a sour component to it. It's more like eating like a Granny Smith apple. Like that comparison makes more sense for Pim Sen Mun than it does for Cow Savoy or even Prime Kamia. I don't really like this mango. I'll be honest with you. I don't care for it ripe. To me, it's boring when it's ripe. And I don't like it green either. To me, like Mun Khun See and Cow Savoy are much better green-eating Thai mangoes than this thing is. The other thing I don't like about it is that the fruit often get physiological defects that make it basically unsaleable. They'll get splits, they'll get rots, they get a little bit of bacterial spot as well. It also drops a lot of fruit, I've found, at about golf ball size and slightly larger. Compared to the other Thai varieties, I would say it drops a disproportionate amount of its fruit, so you end up with decent crops, but not great crops. So what else? Moderately vigorous tree. This one's been a little bit more on the vigorous side, I suppose. Definitely not small trees. Pim Sen Muns are, in the medium range to aggressive in their growth. Something you can probably keep in the 12 to 15 foot range with pruning, but if you try to keep it smaller than that, I imagine it's probably going to try to grow a little bit too much. at the expense of fruiting. What else? Anthracnose resistance is relatively good. It can fruit, at least at the floral and small fruit stage, it can fruit in humid areas. So it's capable of. It's not like a coastal only mango. What else?
How do you know when it's best to pick if, like the other ones that are
If
green?
you're trying to pick it like for ripe fruit,
Yeah.
if it has any tiny bit of yellow color break, it comes right off the tree. We don't wait. Oh, another problem with this variety is it gets a lot of stem end rot. So it's got that going against it as well. Once they're like close to maturity, they can be eaten green the traditional way, and you don't have to be too careful about how you're picking them. If you're picking them ripe, then it might be a slightly different story. But they do ripen off the tree pretty well. So, in fact, I think it's better to catch them at that stage than it is to let them tree ripen, because they're more likely to end up with a physiological problem like a split on the top or something that renders the fruit inedible or unsellable or whatever. So.
Okay. So of all the Thai trees, is this one of the ones that's towards the bottom of your
list? Yes, in fact, so I mentioned how we have a second one because we had another mislabeled Pim Sen Mun. That one is going to get top worked at some point. I have not gotten around to cutting it back to top work it, but it's definitely not a variety that I feel like we need more than one of. We certainly sell budwood from this. We get some graft requests for it, but I would say it's declining in requests. It was probably more popular in the nursery trade 5+ years ago than it is today. But that's true of some of the other Thai varieties also. So
in that situation, when you have two trees that you're going to get rid of one of them.
Yeah.
How do you determine which one of the two you get rid of?
Yeah, good question. So in this case, the other one is a little younger and smaller, so it's actually a little easier for us to top work it. Not to mention that, like I said before, we do need budwood from this tree to produce grafted trees, and you never know if you might get an order for like 100 of something or more or whatever. We need that budwood potentially, and we also sell the budwood too. So in this case, the smaller of the two trees is going to be the one that gets top worked for that reason, and we'll be left with this guy, and it'll supply us basically with all the budwood that we'll need for Pim Sen Mun going forward.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's the season of the mango? Is it an early, mid?
Yeah, it's early. Pim Sen Mun is an early season mango for us here. We're usually getting them by May. It would be unusual for us to start getting them later than that. Fairly typical season in terms of length. It's not like a really short season or a very long one. This one, its last fruit came off some point last month, I guess. Nothing left on it as far as I can tell or see. So,
Okay. Thank you.
The next one that I'm talking about here is Thai everbearing. So, Thai everbearing is a little unusual. It is not an oblong-shaped mango the way that most Thai varieties are. So this is actually a pretty small mango. They're like the size of a turpentine fruit. And the name suggests that it would fruit like all season long, or I'm sorry, not all season long, but like multiple seasons potentially. And I have gotten off-season bloom from this tree, but I've not really had multiple crops in the same year. And that was the experience of other people that I know that either grew or grow this variety. And so probably in other countries, this is more likely, including Thailand, obviously, this mango is more likely to fruit in the off season than it is here. This tree's pretty mature at this point, so I would expect it to have fruited in the off season by now if it was going to do that with any regularity. And it simply doesn't, but it does make summer crops, and it does make pretty good crops in terms of size. The issue is that the size of the fruit is not so impressive, and a lot of times customers will overlook it for that reason. Now, I don't think it tastes bad or anything. It's not exceptional. It's kind of like an average tasting Thai mango, but it has a very thin seed, like paper thin seed, so it's not like all seed here, or at least a pretty thin seed, and has a tiny bit of fiber. It's not like totally fiberless. what else? There are old trees of this in Florida. I think it probably got introduced in the 70s, if not before, because I have encountered pretty old Thai everbearing trees, but I'm not sure if it was one of the ones that Robert Knight introduced back then through the USDA, or if it was introduced by one of the RFC members or something. But I have seen pretty old Thai everbearing trees in Florida. What else? It's kind of an early season variety, so this was just a stray one that hung around quite a bit. It has a fairly long season, I'll give it that, credit for that. Doesn't have any issues with bacterial black spot as far as I can tell, not too anthracnose prone either. I would have liked to see this tree flower more intensely year after year. It had a very large crop this year, but hasn't been consistent about it.
Now those are yellow, can you eat them green?
I've never tried this green, so I'm not sure. That's a good question. One day maybe I will try it. So
the tree's kind of different than your other trees. Of all the trees I've seen here, I've never seen a tree like this.
Very vertical.
Very vertical.
That's just its growth habit. So I think Julian has one that was grown from seed, but it's polyembryonic and it came true to type. So yeah, I don't know if there's any other. Oh, here's one that's on the ground here. So this one's a little larger. This is like about as big as they can get.
Okay.
They usually bear in clusters. So like we'll get a bunch of them. And if I get to pick one, I end up picking several at a time. So we usually don't ship this mango. Sometimes we have, but it's usually a mango we put at our fruit stand. And like I said, customers often ignore it because of the size. People want a larger
like a big
mango.
egg.
Yeah, it's like an egg, right? So anyway, that's Thai everbearing.
And you only have one here, right?
Only one tree, yeah.
Okay.
There's some interest in it because of this purported off-season fruiting habit, but it doesn't fruit off-season like Chakanon does. Chakanon can fruit off-season, a little more, certainly more easily than this thing. This thing's only spit out some off-season bloom before, but I don't remember having like a crop, in the off-season from it.
All right.
So right next to me here is our Mun Khun See mango. I would say this is one of the nicer Thai varieties we grow. It's also relatively slow growing, and it has that reputation. You can see this tree is not too tall. It's like 8+ feet tall at this point, and maybe slightly wider than it is tall. Has kind of a spreading habit and a dense canopy. And I can't remember what year we planted this tree, but a standard vigorous or moderately vigorous mango would definitely be larger than this one by now. So it's definitely a lower vigor variety. I don't know if I'd call it a dwarf, but not terribly aggressive, and certainly something that's a good choice for a small yard. This mango can be eaten ripe or green. I think it was probably intended to be a green eating mango because it is a very good green eating mango. I think I'd put it right there with Kiao Savoy in terms of quality as a green eating mango. How popular is it in Thailand? I'm not too sure. I haven't heard too many Thai customers request it. Actually, I've heard more Vietnamese customers bring this mango up, but it is from Thailand. So they will break yellow color when they're ready to pick. It's a little prone to bacterial spot, I've noticed, but it's okay as a ripe mango, and this is a nice size too. Like this mango isn't too small like Oak Krong or Thai everbearing or one of those. They get good size to them, and it's a fairly productive tree. So when thinking about Thai varieties that I would plant if I had to plant Thai varieties, or if I was thinking about doing it, this tree is a good option. It's a nice mango, and
even with the black spot, you'd still plant it?
Yeah, I think so. It hasn't been so bad that it wiped it out or anything.
Okay.
At least this is one to consider. So Mun Khun See, certainly you can find it within the Florida nursery trade. We definitely graft these, decent number of them. So
what part of the season are they ready?
It's a mid-season mango. Yeah, definitely not an early mango. So it's kind of a late June, July type of fruit here.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, right next to me here, behind me here, is our Hon Sa tree. We only have one Hon Sa mango tree here on the farm. This is a large fruited variety from Thailand. shaped kind of like Nam Doc Mai, but a little more bulbous and wide at the top. This tree has been, I would say, kind of a moderately vigorous tree, and it makes very wide stems. This is something I've observed about it. You can see the stems are pretty fat on this.
Yeah, wow.
So when we take budwood off of it, a lot of times it's pretty large compared to some of the other stuff. Anyway, it's produced reasonably well the last several years, has kind of what I'll call just a standard Thai flavor. I've never tried it green, but each year that it's fruited, I've had a major problem with this variety getting stem end rot. So bad that I lose quite a bit of the fruit, or at least they're not sellable. So due to that, I can't really recommend this mango in good conscience here in South Florida. Perhaps it would do better in a more dry area, maybe. It wouldn't get quite as much fungus. Certainly fruit's fine. Gets a little more color. It turns yellow, but like I've seen it get like some pinkish blush on the top of the fruit, more so than the other Thai mangoes get. So, but otherwise it's more of like a canary yellow color when it's ripe. And yeah, that's it. That's all I have to say about Hon Sa.
Why do you keep it around?
There's some demand for the trees. There's some interest from collectors mainly, because actually I've never had a East Asian person ask me for Hon Sa. It's just a collector's mango. And we've sold a good bit of budwood, not as many grafted trees, but certainly we've sold a good amount of budwood to people from this tree. So that's how it justifies its space. But could it be a Topwork target in the future? Possibly. Depends on if we keep getting orders for it or not, which I suppose I'm not doing myself any favors by talking it down, but you know, there's probably some collectors always.
It looks like a dwarffish tree. Or a
no, it's been, I will say this, it doesn't flush a lot, but it makes kind of long shoots. So I would call it more moderately vigorous in terms of its rate of growth. And ultimate size of the canopy from the other Hon Sa trees I've seen. It's not as aggressive as like, you know, the ivory or the Kiao Savoy.
Now these Thai varieties you're mentioning, they're not very popular. Like if somebody was looking for these, are you the only known place that like has these available for?
Maybe a couple of them. You know, like this one was grafted by the Zill Nursery for a little while. I don't know if they still produce it or not. So obviously anything that's been grafted by Zill, you might find within the trade. Obviously Nam Doc Mai is very common, at least the number 4 is. Some of these other iterations of it that we have talked about or will talk about aren't. Krong is, you know, produced by Zill and I think maybe Pine Island too. Pim Sen Mun. So some of them are actually like, you can find them. Prime Chimea you can certainly find in the trade. The rare ones are like, you know, the Gao Lim Krong, the Kook Lom Krong. What else? A couple of the other ones, I guess. Thai everbearing. Obviously, Julian's grafted that, but I don't think Zill grafts it. So there's a few of them that are kind of curiosities and might be difficult to find. And if you want them, we can make them. We're happy to make them for you, and we're happy to sell you budwood too. So, yeah.
But as for Thai mangoes, people might have some of these, but from a collection standpoint, would you say you have one of the biggest selections?
Yeah, we've got a pretty wide. I mean, like, there might be collectors that have more than us, I don't know, in terms of Thai varieties here in Florida. Obviously, in Thailand, there's people with massive collections, and probably in other parts of East Asia, too. So, yeah, I would think that we have one of the larger Thai collections, Thai mango collections, at least here in Florida. So, of course, we were collecting everything at one point in time. So now, if somebody tells me about a Thai mango that, you know, is a variety we don't have, I'm not necessarily going to leap to plant it or add it unless I feel like there's going to be demand for it. And that's true of any mango at this point, because we're still adding varieties, but we're just a little more cautious about what we add because of the space factor. So
sure. Okay.
All right, right here is our Nam Doc Mai Mun, or Mun. I pronounce it Mun. So this is one of the many iterations of Nam Doc Mai in existence in the world, but originally from Thailand. So as you can see, if you're familiar with Nam Doc Mai, physically this fruit looks like Nam Doc Mai, for lack of a better description. It's got that elongated sigmoid type shape with the pointed nose. It does bear in clusters to some degree, as you can see here. All right. The main difference with this tree, this Nam Doc Mai version, as opposed to the other ones that we've discussed, which are the number 4, the number 8 and 11, which we don't grow here, and the Sia Tong, this tree has a little bit of more subdued growth habit, kind of spreading, not so vertical, and it's been very manageable, this tree. Very healthy tree. Very consistently productive. This tree flowers a little bit better than the other Nam Doc Mais that I've seen, and it will flower easier. Like even if our winter is pretty mild or whatever, and maybe the other Nam Doc Mais aren't as excited about blooming, this one still goes, and sometimes it goes late. When I say late, like it flowers late sometimes. So we ended up with 2 crops on this tree. We had an earlier crop, which is long through, and then this is its second crop. So we're in August. This is not normal Nam Doc Mai season, but it does seem to occur, you know, normally in conjunction with the other Nam Doc Mais. So it's like an early to mid-season variety, you know, it kind of walks that line normally. And then it just sometimes has this late second bloom that gives us fruit into the month of August. So anyway, the Mun, I don't think I mentioned it, would indicate that this mango is eaten green. Most Nam Doc Mais are not consumed green in Thailand, okay? Well, some people do, but it's generally consumed as a ripe mango compared to the other varieties that are almost exclusively consumed green. But the Mun would indicate that this is consumable green. So have I sold it as green mango? Not that I can recall. But if I was going to plant a Nam Doc Mai, the Nam Doc Mai Mun is the one I would plant. I've had much better success with this tree than I have with the other Nam Doc Mais I've grown, and that includes trees that I've grown on another property. So not just the ones that we happen to have here on this location. So I think like this should be the Nam Doc Mai we're grafting in the Florida nursery trade on scale rather than the number 4, for example. Anyway, tree's been pretty disease resistant, no issues with bacterial spot or rots. It splits way less frequently than the number 4 does, or the Sia Tong for that matter, or the other Nam Doc Mais like the number 8s and the 11s. I don't get too many splits on this one, so I get a lot of saleable fruit. It's maybe not as pretty. I mean, like the yellow color it turns is not as brilliant as the, not just the Sia Tong, but even not as pretty perhaps as the number 4. So I guess that's the only downside to it. I don't really care what color it turns so much, but it's like kind of a duller yellow, I would say. But the Mun would indicate it has some versatility in being eaten green too, which you can't say for the other Nam Doc Mais. They're kind of bitter when you try to eat them green. So, yeah.
Is the season similar to the other ones?
Yeah.
And what about the taste? Is it very similar to the other ones?
I can't tell the difference.
Can't tell the
I mean, like, it tastes like a Nam Doc Mai.
I think I asked you last time, if somebody has one of the other ones and they have access to the budwood, should they try to top work it, or at that point
if they're happy with their tree, it's probably not worth the effort.
Okay. So
but if you are deciding that you want to add a Nam Doc Mai to your property, a Nam Doc Mai variety, this is the one I would choose. 100%. This is the one I would choose.
Now, you're the only one I know, possibly, because the other ones, like you said, have the number 4, so not many will have this one, right?
Right. This is not widely propagated at all in the nursery trade. The number 4, like if you go to a nursery, any nursery, and you ask for a Nam Doc Mai tree, just a Nam Doc Mai, 90-something% of the time, you're getting a Nam Doc Mai number 4. Sia Tong has been grafted by Excalibur, I think, crafted it. I don't know if somebody else does. I don't want to speak for other nurseries. Sea Tong's pretty uncommon too. Also a little trickier to graft from my experience for some reason. This one's even more rare than that, I suppose. But it shouldn't be, at least when we're talking Nam Doc Mai here. So.
And why is that? Why don't...
I have no idea.
Okay.
Maybe it was introduced later. I mean, like, there's a lot of versions of Nam Doc Mai in Thailand, right? And only a handful of them, relatively speaking, have actually made it to Florida. And Nam Doc Mai itself was like a later introduction as far as like foreign mangoes to Florida. Like, we've been introducing mangoes to Florida since the 19th century, but Nam Doc Mai didn't get introduced until the 1970s. That's, you know, within the realm of history, still relatively recently. So how recently was this introduced? I'm not sure.
Would a Thai person that knows mangoes definitely know this variety?
I'm not sure. Like, I don't know how common this version of Nam Doc Mai is in Thailand. And probably in Thailand, it's got a number, at least at the research institutions there. And I don't know what number that would be, because like my understanding is there's like dozens, like north of 30 different kinds of Nam Doc Mais in the collections there in Thailand. And so somebody maybe that's more knowledgeable about Thai mangoes perhaps will recognize this in Thailand and can chime in, but I've not ever really heard much about it.
So when you were obtaining your trees and you heard there's this Nam Doc Mai with a different name, did you know anything about it at the time, or you just take a chance, or did you know like all these better characteristics of it?
I knew that it could be eaten green, and I guess I probably, well, yeah, I knew that part about it just because somebody told me that that's what the name indicated. I didn't know anything about its growth habit. You know, its parentage or anything like that, besides that it's a Nam Doc Mai type, obviously. So it was just a curiosity, and when we were collecting mangoes, it was like, sure, let's try it out, right? And actually it turned out to be more successful than the other Nam Doc Mais that we planted. So, yeah, that's... Oh, it's also a much better budwood tree. I forgot to mention that. So I mentioned how Nam Doc Mai number 4 is a really poor budwood tree. It is actually not so hard for me to find good material on this tree. So that's another thing I like about it. Oh, also its leaves aren't as thick as the number 4 or the Sea Tong. They're a little bit like thinner.
Now I know there's a lot of different varieties out there in general of mangoes. So how does Nam Doc Mai get different names? Are they seedlings that people just gave an extra number to? How'd they get different?
Yeah, I would imagine that there was some like prototype Nam Doc Mai at one point in time in Thailand, and because it's polyembryonic, it probably gets grown from seed a lot, right? And polyembryonic mangoes, they come true from seed most of the time. In Nam Doc Mai, it's probably like north of 70% of the time, but that's not 100%. So like 1 out of every 4 or something might come out differently, and perhaps really differently. And so in the process of people planting all these Nam Doc Mai seedlings, I'm sure they saw, you know, some variability in the way the trees performed. Maybe in the way they taste, although I haven't seen that between the Nam Doc Mai varieties that I've tried. You know, most of them just kind of taste the same to me. Perhaps somebody with a more discerning palate could distinguish between a number 4 and a Sea Tong and a Mun. But, you know, they have like ag institutions over there in Thailand that probably planted hybrids, and, or, you know, if they weren't the ones breeding them, they were introducing them like from people's random chance seedlings, just like places like Trek here in Florida, or the USDA, and evaluated them, you know, and I would think that the numbers represented, you know, where they occurred in a row or something, but originally, but beyond that, I can't really speak too much to like how the Thai mangoes were developed, what their history is, the way I can with mangoes that are from here in Florida, like where I know like what family, you know, what was their parent and who was the one that developed it and stuff like that. So if I dug a little more into it, I'm sure I could find some more information about these things. So okay, so right here is our Kook Lom Krong tree. This is a variety from Thailand. The name could be corrupted. That might not be like exactly how it's pronounced or how it should be spelled as translated, but that's how it was spelled when it was sold to us, so we've kept calling it that. Anyway, this variety has a reputation as a dwarfer tree. It has grown pretty slowly for us, I have to say. The graft was a little high on this tree, so like it's like a foot or so higher than normal than it would be for most grafted trees, I suppose, that were the same, like, you know, if it was planted at the same time. But it's grown very slowly since we planted this. So this tree at this point has been in the ground for 7 years, and it was already growing in a pot for a few years before that. And this did come to us from a nursery in Hawaii. It's been a productive tree, I have to say. It's performed very well. It makes kind of a longer fruit that's shaped very similar to the Maha Chanok, which we'll discuss in this video as well. You know, not too many physiological problems or disease issues for that matter. I believe it's a green-eating mango as well. So, but it's a perfectly fine ripe fruit, I suppose. Like, I think I like it a little better than like a Doc Mai, for example. Just a little better. But kind of cylindrically shaped, pretty productive, flowers pretty willingly. It's a good tree, I guess.
What's the season?
It is kind of early to mid, definitely not late. So there's no fruit left on this, of course. It has a pretty long season, like longer than the other Thai mangoes, I think. Turns yellow when it's ready, has a very thin seed, as you would expect, polyembryonic, and that's about it.
Okay.
Kook Lom Krong, there is a significant amount of interest in this because of its dwarf habit. It's hard for us to make these trees. They struggle to grow as small trees. Might be a little tricky for us to graft too, I can't remember, but like, we definitely have to graft these for people every year. This tree's not going anywhere. We need the budwood from this. We do sell budwood from this as well. There's good interest in its budwood. So, yeah, it's earned its keep. It's earned its space. We'll put it that way. So,
Okay.
yeah, Kook Lom Krong. So right next to me here is a partial topwork. This has Tong Dam on it. It used to be a lemon zest tree that, of course, had too many issues with bacterial spot. So what happened was we got Tong Dam, I don't remember how many years ago, probably like 8 years ago or so, and I top-worked it onto another stump. But what happened was, and that Tong Dam graft, it was a couple grafts, it fruited, but it got outgrown badly by the other trees that were on the same stump. So in order to save it, I had to put it on something else. So I put it on this lemon zest stump, and I haven't taken the best care of it. I need to prune off some of those lemon zest shoots that have come out. Anyway, but I can tell you a little bit about this mango. Number one, the name Tong Dam means black gold in the Thai language, from what I understand. I wouldn't call this mango black. I would say it's a dark green color when it's ripe, at least the specimens that I've had. And it has kind of an orange colored flesh, very rich. I think it's one of the better tasting Thai mangoes, actually. And I tried it a very long time ago. A gentleman that I know called, his name's Harry Houseman, had a Tong Dam tree in Davie, and I remember eating the fruit on that like 14 years ago or 15 years ago or something like that, and that was my first introduction to Tong Dam, and I'm like, wow, this is actually pretty good. I like it better than the other Thai varieties. So eventually I obtained some budwood from Dade County, and we got the other one to fruit, and it fruited fine, but that was the only year I got fruit from it, and then it got outgrown. So there is some interest in this variety. because of its reputation for good quality fruit. I don't know how well it fruits in Florida, though, because I just haven't had the chance to observe it that well here. So there's not a lot I can say about its performance beyond that it is a good tasting Thai mango. So I need to get in here and prune off some of those remaining lemon zest limbs and give this mango a better shot at flourishing here. So
now, could Topwork, the stump, affect the producing fruit at all, or that doesn't make a difference?
Sometimes, because like if you hack back a big stump and Topwork something over and you don't manage the canopy well, it can take a while for that Topwork to start fruiting. If you manage it properly, pruning it properly, it shouldn't take too long. In this case, I have not managed this properly because I let the old inner stalk grow back too much. So once I get the chance, hopefully in the next couple weeks, I'm going to cut off those lemon zest limbs and tip prune the shoots on the Tong Dam part, get it spread out just a bit more, and maybe it'll have a better shot at fruiting next year.
Do people contact you for budwood from this?
You know what? I'm pretty sure we took it off our budwood list just because we didn't want to cut too much off of this Topwork. So we've grafted trees for people. I know that we've grafted Tong Dam trees off of its budwood. So, but not a lot. I guess it's because it's not a mango we've talked about much. So, like, if we're not talking about it, then there's probably not a lot of public interest.
Considering it's been your favorite variety.
Well, it's one of the better Thai mangoes. I'll put it that way. I don't love Thai mangoes that much, but this one does, to me, have a richer flavor than, more complex flavor, I suppose, than some of the other Thai ones do.
Are you thinking about planting a second one, or you want to see how it performs?
No, I want to see how this one does. One is enough, and we'll see how it does, and hopefully it does really well, and hopefully we're impressed with it, but we're probably a few years away from giving it a proper evaluation. So,
all right, we'll come back to this one and check it out.
Yeah.
And it's not that big.
Nope.
How old is it, you said?
I don't remember when I grafted this. Remember I originally grafted the other one around 2016 or so, but it didn't do well after it got outgrown by the stump mates. That was a period of a couple of years. And then in order to keep it from dying back or losing it, if you will, and then having to reobtain the budwood, I threw some scions onto this stump, but I haven't managed it that well the last year or two. So I'm not sure when I did this Topwork.
Okay.
At least more than 2 years ago. So.
All right, but so there's no fruit. You don't have the budwood.
But I can sell grafted trees. The one over there, so the one that I grafted onto the stump that had more than one variety, that fruited. So I confirmed that it was what it was supposed to be. But I had seen that tree that I got the budwood from fruit before, so I knew it was a Tong Dam. So
okay,
yeah.
All right, there you go. Okay.
All right, so right next to me here is one of our Maha Chanok mangoes. So Maha Chanok, we do have 2 trees of. And originally we planted this one, but we ended up with a second one, as you can probably guess, because of a mislabeling. But it was okay. We were actually happy to have a second Maha because in the long run it turned out that we needed the second tree. Now, Maha is a mango that has been around for a couple of decades. It's not very old even in Thailand. It was selected in Thailand on the property of an individual collector who was growing both Thai variety mangoes and Florida variety mangoes that had been introduced to Thailand. And they did a pedigree analysis at one point in time, and they found that the Maha Chanok was likely a hybrid of the ivory, which we talked about in this video, and you can see the physical resemblance, of course, and a mango called Sunset, most likely the Sunset that is from Bokeelia, not the Sunset from Merritt Island. There's 2 Sunset mangoes in Florida. That makes it like a kind of a complex hybrid. And it's kind of interesting because this is one of the only Thai varieties that I'm aware of that produces a monoembryonic seed. Almost all Thai mangoes are polyembryonic, meaning that they contain multiple asexual embryos and a zygotic embryo that's from sexual reproduction. This mango only makes one embryo from sexual reproduction. So it does not come true from seed. Now, this variety has proven to be very adaptable here in South Florida. It fruits well in humid areas. It is a very manageable tree. It is not a dwarf tree, but it is a lower vigor variety, in my opinion. It's something you can realistically keep around 10 feet in height with pruning and avoiding overfeeding it and whatnot. This tree was a transplant, as I recall. It was a tree that somebody was getting rid of. They didn't want for some reason. And Jack Sturrock and I went and dug it up from their yard because they said we could. I think we traded them a Malika tree, from what I recall. Anyway, we stuck this in the ground. And it came back after we hacked it back, and it was the one tree that we planted, intending to plant as a Maha. We ended up with that second tree. We planted that second tree actually the same year, I think. So this tree's been in the ground for 10 years. It's certainly more than 10 years old at this point. I don't know how old it was when we obtained it, but we'll say this is a 14-year-old tree or something like that. Not too bad. We've never had to do a hard prune on it. Anyway, as far as flavor goes, I enjoy the flavor of Maha a lot more than I do the other Thai varieties. Now, Maha's not my favorite mango or anything close to it, but I'd rate it a solid like 4 out of 5 or something like that. It's still enjoyable. Very, very thin seed, fiber-free flesh, more complex flavor than the other Thai varieties have, and I believe that's because of that hybridization between the Thai and the Florida mango, the Sunset. Just a little bit more to it going on, okay? Still has that traditional Thai floral component. You'll recognize that flavor, but perhaps just a little more subacidity to it, and just a few more flavor notes going for it than an Doc Mai does, in my opinion. So anyway, very productive trees. We get a lot of fruit from both of them every year. This was a variety that when I planted my farm in Loxahatchee, I had a lot of confidence in, and I planted it out there, a good number of them, and they fruited very well out there in Loxahatchee. So this is a great mango for humid areas of Florida. Areas where you're concerned that, the mangoes that you're planting aren't going to fruit that great because of disease. This is a very good insurance mango. I would classify it as a kind of a mid-season mango. We still have some fruit. I'm still picking this tree. You can see some up in the canopy. This one fell to the ground, got pecked by a bird or something. They get nice color. Most Thai mangoes, I've mentioned, turn like a yellow color or dull green. Maha can get really nice pinks and reds with good sun exposure. Inside of the canopy, they'll turn more of this yellow color, or maybe a little orange, but they can get really pretty. So I appreciate the kind of ornamental aspect to Maha Chanok trees. But anyway, very reliable producers. Ours has never taken a season off, I don't think. Fruits pretty well basically every year. And so, maybe it's not the most exciting mango in the world, but it's certainly a very bulletproof tree. I would say the biggest downside to Maha is it's not precocious. They take an extra year or two to start fruiting compared to most grafted mango trees. So that can be a little frustrating because people are impatient. They plant their tree and they want mangoes immediately. And you won't see these things necessarily flowering as little 3-gallon trees or even 7-gallon trees. But once they get some years under their belt, they start becoming very consistent fruiters. So I appreciate that aspect about them as well. And great disease resistance. We have 2 of them. I'm happy with the 2 that we have, and there's good demand for the trees and the budwood. So
can you eat them green?
You can eat Maha green, and there are people that like it green. Yeah, I don't eat it green, but you can. It's not bitter like Doc Mai.
Can you let them ripen on a tree?
Yes, tree ripens great. This is not a mango that you must pick green. You can let it tree ripen, and they taste great. They don't have internal issues that some of the other varieties can have. Now, you can pick these green, ripen them off the tree, and they ripen terrifically. So it's very flexible about when it's picked. So if you're trying to beat out the animals or whatever or ship your mangoes or whatever, great choice in that regard. But if you're the type of person that, doesn't want to have to figure out when to pick something green, just let them tree ripen. They tree ripen beautifully most of the time in my experience. So, yeah.
Okay. There it is. And would you say currently now this is the most popular Thai variety
Yes,
in
it is.
Florida?
So the most popular Thai variety in Florida by request nowadays is probably Maha Chanok. Now, is it the most widely produced? It might still be Nam Doc Mai just because there's people that plant Nam Doc Mai commercially. But this mango is now grown commercially. Maha Chanok is in other countries. It's not just grown commercially in Thailand, which it's been seeing more commercial plantings in recent years. And sometimes it's been marketed as like rainbow mango. I think in Australia they might call it that. It's grown commercially in Australia as well. It's grown commercially in some other Southeast Asian countries. I think it's been planted in China and Taiwan too. I think there's some plantings of this in Latin America as well now. I don't know how widespread, but so this mango has caught on because it certainly has good commercial adaptation. So
how well is it known in Thailand?
Pretty well. It's pretty widely recognized. The name means like king something or royal something or most high. So I don't remember. All right, but okay. I'm trying. But anyway, it has a significant meaning, and it's a good name, whatever it is. Yeah, so it's been a very successful mango, especially for one that hasn't been around very long. I think it's been around, like, cultivated since like the early 90s or something. That's pretty young in the range of mango ages.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, thank you, man. Thanks for showing us this. All right. All right, everybody, there it was. That was Thai Mangoes Part 2. Remember, I'll put a link below to Part 1. And currently, they have some mangoes left, depending when this will air. And they definitely have budwood and trees. If you love Thai mangoes or you're interested in trying new mangoes, these are definitely some mangoes you want to try. Thank you, Alex, Tropical Gaze Farms. The link's below. Thank you, everybody, for watching. If you have a Thai mango tree or any other cool tree that you don't think a lot of people have and you want me to come on out and check out your yard and you film your trees, my email's below. Until then, everybody, have a great day and keep growing. For more educational videos about mangoes and other fruits and how to grow fruit trees, please look out the other videos on this channel, Fruitful Trees, and also subscribe if you like. And also share these videos with others. Thank you for watching. Have a great day and keep growing.